Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Zuri Bender.
And I'm Ali Yamashita.
In our show this time, we'll cover the Downtown Forum program on world-class medical research in Hawaii.
Dr. Jeannie Pressler, Executive Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer of Hawaii Pacific Health, the largest healthcare provider in the state, moderated a panel of 5 researchers and a representative of HMSA.
The program was presented at the Downtown Laniakea YWCA and sponsored by Hawaii Business Magazine.
Opening remarks were made by Democratic candidate for Governor David Ige. He was introduced by Steve Petranek of Hawaii Business.
David is an engineer. Now, and I mean that's his profession, but that's also the way he thinks. Now, I think in a group here of scientists, you may appreciate that. He analyzes situations, he collects information, he collaborates before taking action. Reason and evidence, not gut instinct. And I think our state government could use a bit more analytical problem solving. Anyone agree on that? Okay, so with that in mind, please welcome State Senator David Ige.
As the state with the longest average lifespan in the nation and one of the longest in the world, we value health and truly appreciate those whose medical care make our healthy aging possible. This is not a recent development. Long before others arrived in these islands, the medical rock stars of the native Hawaiian people were known as la'au lapa'au, or healers who successfully used plants and herbs to treat illnesses and injuries. You know, today we are still studying some of these natural materials to discover the secrets of their healing properties. You know, I'm glad to be a part of this panel and being able to introduce this panel of rock stars in the health medical research community, because they truly offer an opportunity for the state of Hawaii to make progress in this very, very important area as a mechanism to diversify our economy. You know, Hawaii's wide variety of ethnicities have long offered a wealth of medical research opportunities to our scientists here at the University of Hawaii John A. Burns School of Medicine, as well as the Cancer Center. For the past half century, the Honolulu Heart Program at the Kuakini Medical Center has monitored the health of more than 8,000 Hawaii men of Japanese and Okinawan ancestry. And I personally, my family, are part of that 8,000 cohort, and we've benefited from periodic screening and tests and assessments that really allowed us as a family to keep better track of our health. And I think that the results of this medical research are just one of the many examples of the opportunities that would exist in our community because of its diversity.
After David Ige's opening remarks, we turn the program over to Dr. Ginny Pressler to moderate the panel.
The objective today is to give you an example of some of the research and technology that's going on today in medicine, and there's many other researchers as well. I recognize that some of you are in the audience who are working on this. So this is to pique your interest, give you an idea of some of the things you may not be aware of.
The panel consisted of 5 medical research scientists in Hawaii: Susie Chen of the Cancer Center of Hawaii, Peter Greenwood and Scott Lozanoff of the John A. Burns School of Medicine, Charles Rosser and James Turkson of the UH Cancer Center, and a representative of the health insurance industry, Hilton Rathel, Executive Vice President of HMSA.
Over 70,000 Americans will be diagnosed with bladder cancer this year, and over 14,000 will die of bladder cancer this year. Bladder cancer has a dubious distinction to have a very high recurrence rate. Over 50 to 70% of the patients with bladder cancer will have a recurrence. So couple this all together, we are estimating that over 500,000 Americans are struggling with bladder cancer day in and day out here in the States. You can see behind me some pictures about how we diagnose bladder cancer. So I look into the bladder with a little TV camera. It shows me the tumor, and at the end of the camera, I have a little knife that will scrape off the tumor, and I can send that to pathology, and they'll tell me exactly what it is and how aggressive it is. So we do have ways to non-invasively detect bladder cancer, and one of the tests I'm showing you here is called urinary cytology. And we ask the patients to give us a urine sample, and we'll look at the urine sample under the microscope. And as you can see here on the left-hand side, we have a normal urine sample, and on the right-hand side, the abnormal urine sample. So that's anyone can distinguish these two. But a lot of times the sample looks like what you see there in the middle, and the pathologist will then come back and say it's a question mark. They don't know exactly what's going on. So this way of diagnosing bladder cancer is only effective about 3 to 5 times out of 10. So 30 to 50% of the time it's effective.
I'm a professor at the Cancer Center. I'm also the director for the Natural Products and Experimental Therapeutics, focused on how we can derive new anti-cancer drugs from natural products. Natural products, I mean, from natural sources, plants, sea creatures, fungi, and bacteria. Next slide, please. So what is the problem? What are we really wanting to solve? Of course, we all know that we want to solve cancer. But within cancer, there are a lot of changes that have led to the cancer. What I have here is a biological molecule that has gone haywire in its function. And that biological molecule, I'm using an acronym, we call it ST83, STAR3. STAR3 is a biological molecule, is gone haywire. When it goes haywire, on the right side, on the left side, it drives all the processes that allow cells to continue to grow uncontrollably, which is what cancer really is. So cells don't stop growing uncontrollably, and that leads to the solid mass of the tumor. So then, if we're able to block the STAR3 and its functions, then we let the tumor cells die and the tumors shrink.
Pharmacogenomics is very straightforward. Genomics is genes, pharma is drugs, and it's really about understanding the genes of each individual and how they help us metabolize those drugs. Next slide. Oddly enough, Hawaii was at the forefront of this about 5 months ago when our Attorney General had the sense to say, hey, the pharmaceutical companies are spending a lot of our money for these medications that don't work. And in fact, you manufacturers owe us about $30 million for giving out Plavix that doesn't work. Next slide. If you dig deeper, you realize that Plavix is not the exception, it is in fact the rule. And in fact, about 50% of these drugs in any given individual don't really work at all. And that, next slide, is a huge value proposition for us at about $400 billion. In addition to the cost of the medication, you're looking at about 3.8% of the overall hospital admissions nationwide. That's about 1.5 million a year. They're adverse drug reaction related. Next slide. So what did we do? Fortunately, of the 25,000 genes that you have in the body, only 10 of them are involved in 90% of drug metabolism.
What I wanted to share with you all today is radiation and how it's used to treat cancers and how technology has really affected our ability to actually give these treatments. And I think in order to actually see how technology has affected it, I think we should look back as a historical perspective and see that radiation has actually been used since the 1800s to treat tumors, mainly of the skin, because the radiation couldn't penetrate that deeply. It wasn't until about the 1950s that the modern linear accelerator was actually developed. And this is a machine that actually can accelerate electrons and photons to a speed that can actually penetrate more deeply in a patient to treat tumors that are deep within the patient. Even then, though, we were still limited by the way we were actually giving the radiation. So we could only give them mainly in boxes and rectangles and circles. You can see that in the lower picture in the middle. More recently, we've actually had the development of what we call multi-leaf collimators, which are little MLCs, little leaves that come in and out of the radiation field and can conform and shape around a tumor. Still, there's still a little bit of radiation that goes to the normal tissue with that. So we have to still think beyond that and how we're actually going to make that better.
I have an interest in medical imaging, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a database system that we're developing for anatomical variations for clinicians and also for educators. So the research that I'll be talking about developed about 4 years ago, and we were working with a company out of Portland on sleep apnea. Sleep apnea, as many of you know, is a big problem. 22 million people have it. $2 billion in direct costs, about $22 billion in indirect costs, or 100 billion in direct costs. But it's, from an anatomical standpoint, it's a pretty simple structural issue. You can see in the picture here, this is a cross-section of the head. You can kind of see the hard palate. And then if you focus on the soft palate, that little pink thing that hangs down at the end of the oral cavity, essentially all that happens is it drops. Next slide, please. And you can see how it just kind of drops. So structurally, it's a pretty simple issue, but correcting it is a big problem. So we worked with a group in Portland that developed an orthodontic appliance that attempted to move the maxillary teeth out and arch the palate. So we were charged with developing the software. Essentially, the appliance is the upper left. We developed software that you could visualize the airway on the patient and also quantify it. And the idea was to provide those images directly through the patient. So we developed software that would allow this to be sent to the patient via a phone, for example.
I want to talk to you about one drug that's out there right now, and the drug's called Sovaldi. It is manufactured by Gilead Science, and we don't know exactly how much it costs to actually develop. The estimate is somewhere between $1 and $5 billion. That's billion with a B. It's designed to treat hepatitis C, which is a liver-wasting disease. And approximately, it's estimated about 3.2 million people nationally, maybe up to 5 million in the United States have hepatitis C. It kills about 15 to 19,000 people each year nationally. Liver transplants, again, it's a liver wasting disease, and so, you know, if it does develop, a number of people end up with liver transplants. Right now it costs almost $580,000 to get a liver transplant. Now, with this drug, Sovaldi, and there's been hepatitis C drugs out for a number of years, but this is a new drug, just came out this year, FDA approved, and it's a 90+% cure rate in trials. Now, that's impressive. I mean, you heard about some of the research that's going on. This is a very, very effective drug. It has minimal side effects, and it's been described as a revolutionary treatment. Okay, so what's the problem? Okay, next slide. Well, the problem is this. You can see the bottle there. It's a bottle of the pill, 28 tablets. It's $1,000 a pill. So that bottle is $28,000 worth of drugs. The treatment for a course of Sovaldi is $84,000 for the course. Now, the drug is not typically used just, well, it's not always used just by itself. Sometimes it's used in a combination with Alisio or some other drugs as well. And the total course of treatment, including the Sovaldi, Alisio, if you use a drug combo, the labs, the doctor's visits, all the work that goes up, could be as high as $175,000 or even higher.
After the panel spoke, Dr. Ginny Pressler moderated Q&A from the audience with the help of Alex Burgo of LiveSIF.com.
The panelists were then given a minute to wrap up and suggest takeaway action points for the audience.
We've been talking about big decisions about things that get funded, things that don't get funded, what types of research we should or should not be doing, what's appropriate for each patient. So I think it's a very exciting time, but it's also very, it's in a way a very anxiety-provoking time. How do you help your patients make these decisions?
4 years ago, HPH, Queens, and Kuakini formed a consortium, Hawaii Cancer Consortium, which was designed to facilitate clinical trials in this community. And without understanding how patients get into clinical trials, the benefits of clinical trials, really, we can spend a lot of time in the laboratory.
We have a medical school here that's really good, and I think under the direction of Dean Hedges, what he's really done is convinced a lot of us who are in labs and really focused that we have got to relate to the community, and he's really pushed that component to it. And I really think that's where this community, at least, is headed.
No matter whether you're a PhD or an MD or a DO or a student or an administrator or whoever you are, get involved in your own health. Ask questions, make decisions. Don't just be passive. Don't let things happen to you.
I think we're showing that we're coming up with better ways to detect bladder cancer, but we need to expand this to other cancers as well so that we can pick these cancers up earlier when they're amenable to the current treatments that we have. So how can we do this then? It will lead into my action point.
I think every one of us who presented here is, in a way, reaching out to the community for support. I think with the community support is what is going to take the university and the units within the university to the next level.
We clearly need funding from various sources, whether it be investor funding or government funding, policy changes to support technology. There's great opportunity for us to carry this forward.
And after the program was over, we walked around with our camera to find out how people reacted.
I was looking for more of a IT focus, but it was more focused on medicine and medical research.
Great to have research, but let's bring in the companies and the entrepreneurs that can license this great technology and get it to the market.
One of the things that our state could do better is start surveying industries on how they can be supported better by policies and by incentives and things like that.
I thought it was a really interesting forum. It brought out a lot of information and answered a lot of people's questions about what can be done in medical research in Hawaii.
It was awesome, exciting. I think it creates a really great platform to be able to pass on the information regarding what we do at the Cancer Center, to the community.
I didn't know about all of these research and technologies that were going on before we put this panel together, and I had put feelers out to the Cancer Center and to the med school asking them about what kind of research is going on that we might want to have for this forum, and that's where these ideas came forth.
Sometimes we're trapped in our labs and we become so focused that we don't really know what's going on in the lab next door, so it was very nice to be with these folks and to learn more about our own health community.
I learned a lot about other things that were going on in the community, so it was very eye-opening for me. It's very exciting.
I think it was extremely informative, and I think it's reflective of the caliber of the people we have at the UH Cancer Research Center.
Research is only good if it actually gets put into effect out there in the market, right? So that's, by definition, that is commercialization. So, and that is, as the panel was talking about today, that's a real challenge here in Hawaii.
In order to be successful in Hawaii, we need the funding, significant funding. That's what's happened in every single place that this has happened. Remember, every city in the world wants to try to accomplish what we're talking about here today. And you need very significant financing to come in and fund the research and the companies that can come from the research. If you don't have that, it's not going to happen.
Hawaii needs to decide what it wants to be when it grows up. And when it wants to matriculate out of DoD dollars and tourism, it has to understand what its true niche is in R&D, and that's really primarily in a phase 1, phase 2 type of hotbed environment, so that you spin those technologies out to the next level. They get picked up by someone else in a bigger market.
As you could see from the program, we're doing advanced research on cancer and other difficult diseases. We have a diverse test population that is unique and helpful for research. It's all natural for Hawaii, but to keep up with the national research community and to maintain our standard of excellence, we need to keep pushing the envelope right here at home.
It was very exciting to hear these speakers talk about the science of their medical research. But they're not the only ones in Hawaii who are doing it. There are lots more. They just couldn't all be on the same stage at the same time. Suffice it to say, they are representative of the quality of research that's going on.
All in all, this was a world-class panel of medical research scientists working on world-class medical research projects. Everyone was stunned at the level and the importance of their work. We were delighted to have them at the forum and to have them here doing their work in Hawaii.
Thanks so much to David Ige for providing his opening remarks, and to Dr. Ginny Pressler for organizing and moderating this Blue Ribbon panel. And kudos to the panel for their great presentations. Thanks also to Alex Burgo and LiveSif.com for their help with the Q&A and other parts of the program.
ThinkTech will do more programs like this, exploring the research being done in the medical and scientific community here in Hawaii. We'll present other principal investigators and other great scientific research projects you need to know about.
We'll let them talk in the language of science and tell you what's going on in the world of science. We want to know everything, so stay tuned for more here at ThinkTech. And now, let's take a look at our ThinkTech calendar of events going forward.
ThinkTech broadcasts video and audio for all of our talk shows live on the internet from 1 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon. If you've missed a show or want to replay or share any show, they're all archived on YouTube.
Visit thinktechhawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links, or to join our email list and get these links and advisories on our upcoming shows.
We also invite you to be a part of our live audience at our downtown studios in Pioneer Plaza. Contact Jay at thinktechhawaii.com. Raise your awareness in every way on ThinkTech.
Then, on Wednesday, September 24th, ThinkTech will present another Downtown Forum luncheon panel featuring the candidates for the at-large seats at OHA. This allows them an opportunity to express their positions on the issues in that election. This program will also be at Laniakea, so sign up at thinktechhawaii.com.
And now, here's this week's ThinkTech commentary.
I'm Jay Fidel with this ThinkTech commentary. Now, we're getting into the final stretch for the campaigns this year, and it's time for both candidates and voters to get serious. About 60 days away. It's time for you and me to get serious. Maybe lots of newspaper summaries about who's who, lots of flyers and knocks on your door, lots of TV, radio, and internet ads, to say nothing of a million social media messages. Really, you cannot and should not limit your civic education to what they tell you now. Don't be a cow. Be a citizen, proud and happy, imbued with the franchise. This is your time. Some of the candidates have been in office before. Some have long records of public service. No surprise that sometimes they will be selective in what they remind you about. No surprise that some of them will want to repackage themselves. It's the American way, governed by the public relations approach to campaigning. I suppose you could say that that's their job as candidates. You need to recognize that. But you have your own job as a voter. It's to remember how things were before, how the candidates conducted themselves in office or public life, what they did or didn't do, good or bad. You have to examine what they have done before to imagine what they will do now if they are elected. You have to go behind the tweets and one-liners. You have to remember that somebody else wrote or vetted every word they say. That's the American way, but don't let anyone buy your vote. You have to test what they say, and for that matter, what is written about them in light of your own recollection and life experience. You have to apply your best judgment, your best analysis, critical thinking as to whether a given candidate will help you and the community. This is serious business and requires some time and effort from you. It's not a time for self-imposed ignorance or amnesia. Let's see your best thinking. Remember that Google and the internet make it easy. You must put that time and effort in, not only because you don't want a mean or incompetent official in office, not only because you don't want any official to lose ground or damage our community, not only because you like him or don't like him or her, but because it's your duty to the rest of us, to the community, your friends, neighbors, and the children and unborn children of our society. In voting, you are investing that time into our state and our country and our collective future. Yes, it's a duty, a burden, an expectation. I mean to impose some pressure on you and me for all of this with this commentary. But don't be intimidated. You do the best you can.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters. Okay, Ali, that wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. Can't get enough, just like Jay Fidel. For additional times, check out OC16.tv.
Definitely, Zuri. For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a guest or a volunteer, a producer or intern, and help us reach Hawaii.
Thanks so much for joining us on ThinkTech and for supporting tech, energy, diversification, and globalism in Hawaii. You can watch this show throughout the week and tune in next Sunday evening for our next important weekly episode. I'm Zuri Bender.
And I'm Ali Yamashita. Aloha, everyone.
My name is DJ. I'm growing up with ThinkTech.